Good morning, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're pleased to be with you for another episode of Almost Naked Into the Bush. Today we want to do something a little different, and while it's an Almost Naked Into the Bush, I am going to use a couple of modern tools simply to make the video a little more effective to show you. But I will explain how to do it without these tools in the bush as well. What we're going to do is we're going to make some clay pots or some clay containers, dishes, bowls, cups, whatever you need out of clay. Now the premium would be to go down to the river, get some clay off the banks. You would find clay where there's bends in the river on the slow inside because the silt deposits there on the inside of the river where it's a little bit slower. We don't have that luxury to go down to the river today, but we have a lot of clay in our land. I know that because we've dug it up, we've seen the clay, but the clay is mixed with sand, with rocks and other things. So in this first part of the video, what I want to do is to show you how to separate the clay and to get it into clay form from all the other things that are in the soil. So what I've done is I've come out here to our pit. We just have a bunch of dirt out here, some rocks and things, and I've got a bucket of water. Now in the bush, I don't have to use this bucket. If I have nothing at all, I can still do this by digging a hole in the ground, possibly lining it with something, a piece of plastic that I find, or I can put leaves in there, all different things to line that hole with to do the same thing. Again, for ease of demonstration, I'm going to use this bucket. So what I'll do is just take this clay, and I'm going to, you can see the clay mixed in here, is red, there's sand in there, and I'm going to put it into this bucket. Here's clay. You can see how that's hardening up. And I'm going to put a few big handfuls of this. I want to try and keep the rocks out if I can. Just get the clay and the dirt mixture. And I'm going to let me dig some more clay here. Put this stuff right here into my water. Now one of the characteristics of clay is that clay will actually suspend in the water. So as I dig this out, and I put this in here, I'm going to be able to stir this up, and you'll be able to see that the water turns dirty. And we've got some impurities in here, nothing to worry about. It's not going to impede our work. Okay, so there I've stirred it up. Now what I'm going to do, you can see, and I'm working all these particles in the bottom, make sure everything's broken up. Here's some of that clay, you can actually see it. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this water off into a second jug. Now, if I was in the bush, what I'd do is I would take off my shirt, or again, use some grasses that are woven together to pour this into. What will happen is the clay is now suspended inside this water. And as I pour it off, we may have to throw out the first little bit, but we'll try. You can see there's some dirt and stuff in here. Again, not a big deal. Some grasses and pieces of debris. We'll try not to get those. And I'm going to keep stirring this as I pour, because that clay does tend to settle out. Okay, and then I'll set this aside. Now what we're going to work with is this bucket here. I'm going to take some of these smaller pieces of junk out of here. Pardon the kitty cat, wants to get a drink. And I'm just going to scoop some of this stuff out. Again, I could do this through my shirt. It would get a lot of that junk out. Now all that we have to do is wait for a little bit, and we're going to wait and come back with you in about 10 minutes, and what you'll see is the clay beginning to separate and fall to the bottom. The silt will actually fall out where the water's quiet. We'll come back, scoop some water off the top, and once we've scooped it off over and over again, we'll have clay left. So We'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Alright, we've waited about 10 or 15 minutes now, and if you look down here at the bowl, you can see, and I hope the camera picks that up, a definite demarcation where the silt or the clay has settled out. What I'll do is I've got a spoon that I coal burned, and I'm going to just take and very slowly pour some of this water off. Now it's not quite done yet. You can still see there's some not clear water on top. So we'll do this 2 or 3 times. But what we're doing basically is pouring the excess water off, and you can see here at the top of the jar our clay. That's why I left this in a clear container for you, so you'd be able to see this process a little better. So I'm going to just go ahead and pour some of that water off very slowly, and there's our clay. That's beautiful, isn't it? And that's what we're left with. Again, there's no sand in here or anything else, because that sand settles out fast in the first pot, the first time that we poured it out. So all that we're left here is pure clay. And what we're going to do is on the next video show you how to take this clay and make it into a pot. Let me see how much that water I can get off of there. Once that I'm finished with this, what I'll do is just let this dry for a day or two. You can see there's a few little impurities in the clay. That's okay. I don't think it's going to impede our work. But I'll let that settle down a little bit more, and then I'll continue to pour that off so that we can get all that off. I'll pick some of that small junk off of there. Alright, now what I've done is I've done the whole procedure a couple more times. Stirred up some more clay, and I've taken and put it in here, and now you can see a much better demarcation. You can see the clear water on top and the clay underneath. You can see we've got a lot more clay. So I'm going to just very slowly, again, pour that water out, and I'll coax some of this junk that's floating on top out of here. Don't want that to mix with my clay as much as possible, but you can see as soon as I touch that how that clay stirs back into the water. So I'm just going to slowly pour that off, and you can see where the clay is now. Again, that's why I use this clear bowl, so you guys could see this procedure more clearly. If I was using a tin can that I had picked up in the bush or something, it would still work the same way, but you wouldn't be able to see it on camera very well. Coax this piece of whatever out of there, and you'll lose a little bit of clay, no big deal. Clay is free for the taking, guys. Okay, and so what I'll do, let that settle down, and eventually what will happen is there won't be any more water that's able to be poured off of there. And so what I'll have to do is I'll just have to let it set in the sun for a day, and it'll dry out, the moisture will evaporate off the top, then I can work it in and I'll have good moist clay to work with. So what we're going to do this 3 or 4 times, and we're going to go ahead and get a good lump of clay that we can use, show you how to make clay pottery out in the bush. Clay pottery is good because it's pretty easy to make, and except for the firing process, which we'll get to in the 3rd video, it's pretty foolproof. So we'll get to that in a day or two after this clay dries up enough to be usable. Until then, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for all the comments that you guys put on our videos, and be assured that we take all them to heart. We appreciate your comments, your support. We appreciate all the good words you guys have for us. One of the things I wanted to thank the subscriber who told me about putting a Band-Aid on top of the speaker or the microphone on the camera, because we got a real windy day out here today. I don't know if you can see it blowing, but hopefully that Band-Aid's going to do the trick and help us to get better sound. So we'll see how this works. We'll see you on the 2nd video in just a few days when this clay gets ready to use. Until then, have a great day. This is David Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire, hoping that you and yours are well. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.